A little bit about us as we're getting started, as you're entering. I am an instructional tech integration coach in Pleasanton, California, and I've done my whole career here in Pleasanton. This is my 27th year. I know, right? I started when I was 10, everyone. I taught fifth grade forever, and so I love teaching adults now. I have the pleasure of working with Kelly as well. We're on the same team the last 2 years. So she has to deal with me every day, even on the weekends now. Kelly, you want to introduce yourself then?
Hi, everyone. I'm Kelly, and I work with Lisa every day, and it is an honor and a privilege. We have been in the same district for many years and then became partners in crime with the HyperDoc work, developing that together. And so it's been our passion project, in addition to supporting our school district community together. I also am a former classroom teacher. I taught first, third, fourth, and fifth grade in elementary school. And then I took a big jump and I became a vice principal at a high school for a bit. And so I've kind of worn the teacher hat and the administrative hat as well. And now I'm in the best job in the world is working with teachers, working with Lisa. We have a couple other people on our team and we're integration specialists, and we provide professional development for our school district regularly. So that's where we are now. But we enjoy just supporting teachers and connecting and collaborating and sharing best practices and ideas.
Well, and who knew that HyperDocs would be the thing that is actually really helpful right now? It can be when you're ready for it. So that's what we're here to talk to you about, because it can also be, we work with teachers every day who come to our office hours or call us or email us, and they're in tears and they're stressed out and they're exhausted and a little overwhelmed. And so we understand that as well. And we'll kind of speak to that as we go through a lot of our content today about when do you introduce these. And as you're getting started, Kelly, this is our 6th week we're going to go into next week, our 6th week of school. And so depending on where you are in terms of how long you've been back, people are going to run out of their bag of tricks. We're starting to hear last week, our big message from everyone was, I think teachers hit a wall the week before. Last week, the kids were hitting a wall. It was so interesting to see that pattern where they were just checking out. I told Kelly I was teaching a 2nd grade class, and all I saw was the kid's hand. He was like on the floor. I'm like, come on, get back up. I have something to show you. But so if HyperDocs can maybe be that piece that engages them and entices them to get them motivated. So I think we can go ahead and get started. Kelly, I'm going to begin just our introduction to letting you know what HyperDocs are and having a feel for that. So thank you to Andrea, who shared that the link is correct in the program. In case you didn't have it, this is our shortened URL, bit.ly stick remix. And it stands for Sticky Learning and Remix. This is our big shift in helping you to work with HyperDocs during this remote time in order to not only make your teaching and learning effective, but also your workload. We know that HyperDocs take a lot to make, and so hopefully this will help. So for those of you who are brand new to HyperDocs and have never, this is your first time maybe hearing about this, you were just curious, or you've seen them before, or maybe you've seen ones that you kept thinking, these are just digital worksheets. What are these things? Here is the definition straight from the people who made up the word, literally together. A HyperDoc is a digital lesson that a teacher creates and gives to the student. They are based on packaging in a specific workflow that walks a student through a cycle of learning that is really good in best practices for instruction and for learning. So for example, our workflow, and you'll see this when we model our HyperDocs, we love to start with exploration, having a student explore first to build that inquiry thinking and that inquiry learning. Then we get into explaining the concept and then applying the concept. So it's just a way to package all of your content in one place. It's organized. You can build in all of these design aspects for including like universal design for learning, which we'll speak to. There's a lot. They are alive too. So these are live documents that you can add and you can edit while you're in the learning process, which I kind of love as well. So when we think about instruction, I started to mention, maybe started to get you all like a little stressed again because I mentioned UDL. I'm like, that is only one of the buzzwords that you have to worry about. Each year, this is my teaching manifesto. And every year I add new words to this or new acronyms. Do you recognize any there that you are tasked, that you still have to do? I remember this year when our district said, you still have to do UA time for tier 2 instruction. I'm like, oh, remotely. Like, okay, we need to rethink how we're going to do this. And it's all about these, how do I accomplish all of this? This is what I'm tasked to do to meet student learning. How can I do that in each of my lessons? Now, maybe not every lesson, but this is kids that have these needs. How can I meet those needs? And then on top of that, how can I meet them remotely? It seems like an impossible task. And that's where we really value HyperDocs. HyperDocs are really about the way you design them. So if you've ever seen one and you felt like, that is not something that I would teach from, I'm telling you, I agree with that. And I think that it's the same as when I go to Pinterest and I find a recipe. I have a really hard time following the recipe. I constantly have to change and add to put my own flavor to it, to put my own twist and my own goals into it. A digital lesson is the same thing. And, we started Teachers Give Teachers at the same time that we started HyperDocs in order to share them. So there's a lot of sharing of HyperDocs. We never meant for them to be like fast food, where you go through the drive-in and you order your lesson up and you just walk away and you deliver it. Sort of like that other site that you might have heard about, the other teachers, maybe it's the other one. The other one that's not giving, because that's what it is. You download it and it's a PDF or something and you give it. With HyperDocs, it's different. You're the designer. You're in charge of making sure that those items, those goals, those manifesto items are designed into it. We are excited, though, that distance learning can be such a big part of how these lessons can be used, and thinking about opportunities for building in flexible grouping or building in that differentiated option, or building in like a really high level critical thinking lesson. It's kind of like my favorite part of building them. Kelly, would you like me to keep driving for you?
Go ahead. Thank you, Lisa, for really helping clearly define HyperDocs. And what you're speaking to as well is, I want to ask everyone to think about, where do you get your energy to teach? Where does that creativity come from? And when you have curriculum or another lesson that someone shares with you, it may spark that creativity. And that's one of the reasons we talk about taking those ideas and remixing them, but always in the end, coffee. Yes, Allison, me too. I'm on my 3rd cup today. But other teachers, yes, from the students, when you see their reaction, right? Go ahead and put that in the chat. Like, where do you get that energy? What makes you excited to keep showing up every day? I got a text this morning from my friend who is knee deep in remote teaching, and I've been coaching her quite a bit. And she just sent me the picture of a student work in Seesaw. And the comment was, look how cute. And the thing is those are the little things that make us want to remix and redesign and get excited for Monday again when we see those kids again. And so remixing is the topic today. And while I'm talking about remixing, I want to invite you to, in the chat, share with us really quickly, what is your understanding of HyperDocs for those of you who are here with us? Would you say that you're a beginner and you're here for the first time learning what they are? Are you kind of intermediate? You've used them, but you're looking for some new ideas? Or are you an advanced user? Because Lisa and I want to share a little bit for all of you here. And we just want to make sure that we're meeting the needs of the people in the session as well. So if you could share that, that would be great. Thank you. So remixing will save you time, because finding the links, finding the resources, designing all of that can be something that takes a lot of extra time. But there's a lot of other reasons, and we're going to go through those. You can customize it for your individual students, and we encourage that. You can get started with HyperDocs if you're new. For those of you who are saying, I'm beginning right now, remixing is a great place to begin. Find one that you like, make a copy of it, and try personalizing it. You might remix just because someone packaged a lesson and it's really amazing, the design, and you're curious and you want to share that with your students. If the design is intriguing to you, it will most likely be intriguing to your students as well. So there's many reasons to do this work, and also this work will really help teachers, especially during remote instruction when we are so limited on time. This is all about building that community together. So let me talk to you about how to remix.
Kelly, would you like to drive your own slides? Because I'm going to drive her nuts.
No, you're fine, because you're going to take over again. I will in the second part, though, Lisa.
Okay. Sorry, everyone.
I'm hoping you're reading my mind, because right there, you just clicked right at the perfect time. This is how in sync we are. Good job. Yes, and I just want to address what Catherine said. Sometimes the design does not work for you. So you might find, and on the flip side, you might find a HyperDoc that the content is there, but it's the design does not flow for you, the colors, the packaging. So use the resources and repackage it yourself. And this is all a part of that Teachers Give Teachers, because that's the community of helping save time and support each other as educators. And I always say, if I take the time to make a really great lesson that I love and I share it with students, what an honor it is when somebody else says, hey, I love that lesson. I'm going to use it with my kids too. And now more kids have the benefit of that great lesson. And honestly, that's the joy in being a professional educator that I find. So the way that you do this work, and this is really for our beginners, if you find a HyperDoc, the first thing I want to say is don't request access, because those of us who've shared a lot of HyperDocs, we have so many like out there in the world, and some days you'll have your inbox flooded with requesting access. Most likely it's students requesting access, but the first thing you want to do to customize this is go to File, Make a Copy, and then you have that copy yourself in your drive. And you can go ahead and take that original creator's design and do whatever you want to do with it. The second thing I recommend that you do is, once you find someone else's HyperDoc that you like and you make a copy, go through it with a critical lens. Check the links. Make sure the links are appropriate for your students, for your content, for your category. If they're not, change them out. This is where you want to make sure that it works for you. And if the original creator, let's say you find a HyperDoc that Lisa created, she shared it on Twitter, you like it, you make a copy, her name is on it, you would leave her name on it. But now you're also a creator, so put your name on it too. So one of the things that we recommend is you might say something like, created by Lisa at Lisa Highfill, typically she puts her Twitter handle, and remixed by Isaiah Olson, right? So it's just a fun way to interact with, again, this networking of collaboration amongst teachers. But there's nothing more frustrating to see something that you designed that somebody's put out there and your name's all of a sudden off. So we have a really a call to action to our community to be respectful and responsible in that way. And that's the Creative Commons in us of, please always give credit to the original creator. So the next thing I want to encourage you to check out is, I love this slide because this is one of my favorite HyperDocs, first of all. And if you see it, it's remixed. There's the original, we'll filter through. But this original has been remixed, I think 5 or 6 times, and probably more that we're not even having shown on this slide. And if you notice, each time for this example, the design has stayed the same because that workflow has worked for people. It's a 1-page HyperDoc. It has explore, explore and explain across the top. And then the second part is the apply. And then there's a share and a reflect at the bottom. I really like it because it fits on 1 page. It's a really clear objective. And this is our sticky learning HyperDoc. This is like how to really get learning to stick. And each of those links have the different variations. There's math, there's social studies, and you can see there. Now, the next thing that I want you to take a look at is, why do people love this HyperDoc so much and keep remixing it? And on that next slide, Lisa, I'll have you go to the next one now. It's showing the annotation on there of how you would deliver instruction with this HyperDoc. And that's a really key point. Designing it is step 1, but actually teaching from it is where the craft comes in. And so teachers have that fill of creativity when you create and you design a HyperDoc. And it's like going back to the cooking analogy that Lisa mentioned of, you know, having that recipe and putting your own creativity into it, but actually design, like delivering instruction from that HyperDoc is where your craft comes in. So here it talks about how to teach from here. Step 1, watch that video together in the Wonder section. Step 2, allow students to play with the math game. This is a math HyperDoc for middle school math, actually. And then step 3, there's a link to a video that directly teaches the lesson. And if you watch that video, it shows the 3 ways to solve the math problems in the same way that the teacher taught it in the classroom. So it was taught in the classroom and it was shared on the HyperDoc. And then the second half of the HyperDoc has the practice piece where we reimagined the worksheet for this HyperDoc, where you could have a worksheet with 10 questions for students to practice. And this is a typical math lesson, 10 word problems, practice and solve them all by yourself, turn in the answers. I will grade you for all the ones you got right and give you points for that. Well, HyperDocs like to reimagine what learning looks like. And so we took the 10 questions, turned it into 4, offered choice. Students only respond to 1 of the 4, and they're in small groups of 3, so they're collaborating, and then they show their work using one of the tools listed below. The big thing that transforms learning and makes this a sticky learning HyperDoc is the share piece. They get into, when they turn in their work, the workflow is they turn it in on a Google form, and the teacher shares back the responses so they can see each other's responses, and you still teach from that as well. So you can see there's a lot of layers of delivery from this 1-page HyperDoc. So moving forward, Lisa, I believe, is gonna talk to us about what does it look like to actually remix a HyperDoc, and for now, remix it for remote teaching.
You know, before I do that, Kelly, we had a lot of people who were either beginning or intermediate, and I just wanted to pause. If you have any questions, you're free to unmute. We want to be able to communicate with you and feel like you can join in this conversation if you have a question. If not, I'm ready to walk you through what do you do when you find a good HyperDoc that you like. And then get ready, because at the end, we're going to just pour a bunch of HyperDocs at you so that you'll know what to do with them, you know, in your free time that you want.
I also want to say to the community that Lisa's sharing an example that is tailored towards elementary or elementary to middle on a Google document. And then I'll be sharing an example that's tailored towards secondary. But HyperDocs, for various reasons, can go both ways too. So keep that in mind. It's not always about that.
Now, if I'm going too fast or you have questions as I'm going through this portion, put it in the chat. I can see the chat and I'll stop. Oh yeah, you have to, Jen just commented, you often have to create your own external links to things like a Flipgrid or a Padlet. I agree, because those are already created in there. And I have to say, I'm putting my foot down sometimes on, oh, they used a Padlet or they use a Flipgrid, and I don't use Flipgrid yet. It's a little too much, either for my class or for me. I haven't figured that out yet. And so I like less is more. And sometimes I will just link it to a Google Doc with a table to get student input. So I think that's important, that when you change out some of those links, you think about, and I think I'll show you that right now as I walk through this one, that you may have a lot of opinions about doing that. Now, I apologize, I did not have closed captioning on earlier. So I went ahead and did that. I don't want to be distracting to Kelly's presentation. But on this one, this was one of my old favorite lessons, and it is called Nothing to Do. And then I remixed how to actually do this one. So on the Nothing to Do HyperDoc, when I first did this is actually a really old HyperDoc, and I created this and I've shared this for a long time. This lesson was based upon this video. I really loved this video. It's very moving, very powerful. So I really wanted to inspire students about their thinking when it comes to this. I wanted to practice cognitive thinking skills through videos. So I've linked this video. I've attached it to ViewPure. If you haven't seen ViewPure before, since this is an elementary lesson, I wanted to make sure that I wasn't sending my elementary students off to YouTube. So it takes off all that videos on the side, it takes off the ads, and it makes it, I feel, a little bit less distracting for my elementary students. And so it's just a way that I have used viewpure.com is how you can do that. And I linked it straight here in the HyperDoc. I gave the instructions here on the side. Now, I went through this and realized these are not really working for remote instruction. And that's really important to go through. You may have different goals for that work, what you want them to do. You might not be using writer's notebooks in your class. So the first thing you would do when you see this lesson, of course, you would go to File, and I'm gonna get the chat out of the way. You would go to File and make a copy. That puts this into your drive. That makes this so that you can edit and revise this however you like. But I do want to go back to here, and I want to start to talk about how I did revise this. And it looks a little different. This is like Martha Stewart. I just pulled the cake out of the oven already made, so I didn't remix it in front of you. I made a copy of that original, and I'll kind of flip back and forth. The original it said resource and task, and then it said inspiration and your plan. A HyperDoc can be delivered in a lot of different ways. And one of the things that is sometimes misunderstood about them is people think they're like a lesson that you just, I guess I said this too, I apologize for that. It's not something you just hand out and say, have at it, kids, go learn. You could if that was your goal. And some people, like we have Wednesdays where we are not teaching remotely with students. It's their independent learning day. You could create a HyperDoc that's all independent. But typically, I walk kids through this. That's why when you look at this, you're like, this is so vague. How would they know what to do? And so that was one of my first steps I needed to do. I needed to make it chunked into more specific categories. So you can see, I first started with explore. I was very clear, and here is your task. Then I went to explain, and here is your task. And then I went to create, and there was their task. I even broke it down and explained the days that it's going to take place. I recommended that that takes place over one day. I love to have it in print, not in print layout, so I can see it, not broken up. So this would be day one. And it already, I'm hoping you're starting to see some of the differences. My instructions are a little bit more clear with numbers. My students love to see, first do this, that, well, actually, depending on their age, their parents love to see this. What do you do first? What do you do second? Since we're not together, instead of their writer's notebook, here we go with the Padlet. I wanted them to share their thinking about this video using a Padlet in this space. And I need this because I want them to be able to, oh, looks like people have been doing this lesson. I needed them to be sharing their thinking collaboratively. I wanted everyone to see to what level are they understanding this video? Because it is a very deep video. I would actually push anyone in middle school or even high school to see. All you have to do is ask your middle school or high school students, who does the box represent? That's a little hint there. I mean, that's going to drive you to watch that video now. At the end, I'm always crying. It's a great video, and it always hits me about who the box really is a metaphor for. Anyway, I don't always do that with my younger students. They don't understand to that level. Sometimes I can push. I do push these kinds of questions, though. What was the message in the video? What ideas did this video give you? And in what ways can you be creative at home? And I wanted to start getting them thinking, because that's the direction I was taking this lesson. Again, here's where it's linked up with UPure. It's linked up over here. I think I even linked the image. I link everything. The kids know, just start clicking stuff. No one's gonna comment to me, I couldn't find the video. So you just keep linking away. I want them to be able to pick this up and say, I know what to do. Day 2 on this one, let's see what it looked like when I had this before. Oh yeah, I put the story video, part 1, part 2. I shared nothing to do, because when I watched this video, it made this connection to me. It made me think of Douglas Wood's book, Nothing to Do. And so I created a video telling of the story using the cognitive thinking strategies. I actually wrote to Doug Wood and asked him if I could do that. And he wrote back and appreciated that I asked and gave me permission. So I asked them to do a journal entry in their digital notebook about what there's to do and nothing to do. Again, it was a little vague. There were part 1, part 2. In my remix, I did the explain. Do you ever have days when you have nothing to do? And that was kind of perfect right now, because they'd been feeling that because they're home a lot in our area. And so I had them first watch part 1, and I broke it down for them instead of putting that. Watch part 1. And so it takes them to the video. And then their task was, in your writer's notebook, create a list of what you like to do when there's nothing to do. So again, breaking down those instructions, because I'm not there in the classroom to walk them through this portion. My directions were so vague before. So now I want to make sure everything is packaged in one place for them. For the second part, oh look, I left that part 2. I should take that off. I put part 2 here of the video, because it's pretty long, me reading that, including the little me talking through those cognitive thinking strategies. I asked them to watch it, and then I asked them to, under the list of things you'd like to do, share the message you took away from the story. Pick one thing from the list and write long about it. And this is where I sort of tried to beef up this lesson. I needed to insert more of my writing standards here. And we are working on narrative writing, and I felt like that last lesson was skipping this part. So I actually had them turn that into Google Classroom. I could make this more formal and actually assign it through Google Classroom if that would help with their executive functioning and organization. That's where you come in, and you can change these directions however you like. But again, that was I started with the explore. You're building that concept. The video, you can tell, is about a boy who had nothing to do, and he's very imaginative with a cardboard box. And then it gets to the book, Nothing to Do. Well, then it really reminded me, and again, the first version of this, it reminded me of a couple of videos that I really love. And again, I have to put this in. I have a thing about viewing my HyperDocs in print layout. There we go. It reminded me of 3 videos. I love Audrey's Rube Goldberg machine, because that is a kid who had nothing to do, and he built the most amazing thing in his house. It also reminded me of Kane's Arcade, because of Kane using all these cardboard boxes to build cool things. But it also reminded me of Kevin Doe. And Kevin's story is amazing, because he rebuilds things out of old junk. And I love that one. But I felt like that was too much for this one lesson away from me remotely. And so on here, you can see how I've changed it up. I limited it to only Kane's Arcade. Again, I linked it with UPure. Kids are used to that workflow now. Oh, look I didn't link the picture. But I linked it here again. There it is. And they can watch this and get inspired. Then I wanted to have them find some unused cardboard and invent a new use for it. I wanted them to take a photo or a video of the creation and post it here. This is back on the original Padlet. Instead of making them go to a whole new place, I wanted everyone to see each other's product right away. That was an important part to me. And I left comments open on the Padlet so that they could comment on each other's creations. You can see I'm always working to revise and edit these lessons. And I left this on here and I still haven't done this. I need to get back to this. I figured that if they watch Kane's Arcade, and I'm asking them to be inspired by that video, Kane's Arcade has a lot of refrigerator boxes and dishwasher box, like huge boxes. And I kept thinking, like, what if our students don't have that material at home? And then it hit me. I said, all you have to do is go watch your packaging after you eat dinner. And did your food come in a cardboard box, or is your cereal? And so I wanted to do mentor samples that they could find cardboard all over their house in the way things in their house is packaged. And so I thought that might be a good idea to make just a little image of ways to find cardboard at home. But, you know, to not upset your mom when you took everything out of its cardboard box. I don't know if they will empty after they eat the food. That would be a good idea. But the idea between this lesson being that students were allowed to come to that cognitive thinking that through this video first, without me telling them about how fun it is to be imaginative and to create. And then I use this story, this book, to explain that a little deeper, and then tie in some writing with this. And then I went one step further and letting them apply this new knowledge they have and be creators themselves and be able to explain that. Now, if you're using Seesaw in the classroom, that'd be great to turn it in Seesaw and have them use their voice and explain it. But you can remix this however you like. I use this at a 5th grade level. You could take this all the way down to 2nd grade if you like, and adapt it. You could take it all the way up to middle school easily. Kelly, I think you saw and helped with some of those links there. The links, these on our slide decks, the old one is linked up and the new one is linked up. We also have, if I went too fast or it's too much for today, you've been learning a lot today, we do a little pitch for our new HyperDoc Academy. I want to point out these links on here. I've written 2 courses in our new online academy that talk about workflow ideas with HyperDocs and also revising some fun HyperDocs for remote learning, and actually do a walkthrough of this so you get to hear it again if you needed that. Just a little tip there. And any questions about this one? I love the ideas I'm seeing for giving quick screencast videos to explain tasks. Yeah, that's a great idea, Kristen. You know, Kristen, that's leading me to create more on slides these days. I have to say, I'm kind of becoming like just a HyperDoc creating on slides. It's so easy to put that video on the side of the slide or to do a voice, insert a voice instruction. Anything that makes it easier, that workflow to create. So I don't know if there's any other questions. If not, I think we're ready to, oh, I'm so sorry, I forgot. I already went through all this, but for you, if you want to see some of these, that explore, explain, apply was always the workflow in here. It's just hidden. The pedagogy is hidden because I was delivering this in class and I had it in my head. You know how teachers know. We know how we are delivering our lessons and what our intention was. But if you found this on Teachers Give Teachers, you would look at this and be like, what is this lesson? This is just a bunch of hodgepodge thrown into a table. Why is this so great? Well, in my head, the mastermind was working away, but I didn't explain myself. So to you, the teacher who's looking for these lessons, you might not initially see that explore, explain, apply, but that is what makes HyperDocs unique. How you can tell them apart from a digital worksheet. A digital worksheet would have simply been, watch this video, answer this questions, and tell me what you've learned or tell me something you do. I mean, you could see how you could narrow this down a lot and just tell them what to do and assign what to do versus drawing that thinking out and taking them through this lesson flow where they are building background knowledge and building understanding about the concepts and the themes you're teaching them. So sorry, I get really excited about this stuff. Kelly, I'm gonna stop screen sharing. I feel like you need to control your screen for the next portion.
I do, but I just want to say that when I'm listening to you and I'm thinking about a big thing that a lot of teachers are working on is engaging student learners remotely and keeping them engaged. So there was a lot to be said with how your HyperDoc was an invitation to learning. It was an exploration in the beginning, and you personally connected to that video. So there was that personalization and of excitement in your delivery that makes me want to learn and do more. And that is something that we hope that you can experience yourself when you design and deliver from a HyperDoc. I also want to comment on the screencasting ideas. I think in this new space, it's just another way to differentiate. Some of your students don't need the step-by-step, and some of them do. So quickly making a screencast of the technical skills required is a great way to differentiate again and to build in universal design for learning of accessibility for all. If you need this, you have it, it's right there. So those are great.
Kelly, on to piggyback on that, a new teaching point in the room, and I'm sure you guys have been experiencing this, you have to explicitly teach these kids how to watch these videos, because come to find out, they're not watching the videos. You know, here we're pouring our heart into our instruction, to our videos. So maybe you need to hide an Easter egg in your video. And if you don't know, you've never done that, you hide the secret word for today is, like right in the middle of the video, and everyone gets 5 bonus points if you want. I don't know, something. Let's just keep putting our ideas. How do we get these kids to watch these videos? And you know, I work with a lot of TK2 teachers. It's the parents watching the videos, but I don't always want them doing the learning for all the kids. So
yeah,
new struggles. Oh, Ed Puzzle, you're right, Christina. It's so good. We just got that in our district. Yes.
Yeah. Ed Puzzle is awesome, but there's another little Easter egg stuck in the example that I have actually.
Oh, good.
On that video watching, and I think this was a great integration of that. So another example of a remix here is this HyperDoc that is built on slides this time, and it was originally designed for a high school social studies class, could work really for any classroom though when you see the pedagogy built in to these slides. And so the first iteration of the HyperDoc has a very clear explore, explain, apply. What I love first though is that this HyperDoc started as a worksheet. Before it was a 4 slides here. The designer, Scott Padway, shout out to our other partner that we work with who designed this HyperDoc. It was a social studies project worksheet asking students on one simple Google Doc to please go ahead and just do the work, like here's the assignment, read these articles and make something. And then by reimagining it and putting it into the slides already, I'm captivated by the imagery, because especially with social studies, it's there right there on the title. And then there's an explore and explain and apply. And before I go through, this is version 1 of the HyperDoc, but we remixed it for remote learning. And I want you to think about that workflow with our students. If you are teaching one lesson objective like this one is, and the lesson objective is what happened in the US Maine, then imagine how helpful it is for students to have all of the teaching and learning parts around that learning objective right in one HyperDoc versus multiple tasks that are listed in a Google Classroom or on Schoology. And here's what I mean, or Canvas or whatever you are using to push out your lessons. So for this remote remix, it suggested that Monday and Tuesday, students work on the explore portion of the lesson and the teacher guides instruction from that. Wednesday, Thursday, they move into the explain, and then an apply is collected on Friday and shared out. And so the first step is this explore. And in the explore, what we've done now is instead of just giving the slides in the classroom, we would give the slides to students, give one device to 2 students, and allow them some time to explore the resources. But what I love about this remix is a little interaction. The first thing being students are invited to use this flip a coin. And back to that video, like if you say you get to choose one or another, they don't all read the same article. There's 2 articles to read, and they partner up and they flip a coin to see who's going to read which article. So this is that link on the HyperDoc links here, and students just click right here and they choose heads or tails with a partner. So Lisa, choose heads or tails. Which one do you choose?
Tails, always.
All right, so she chooses tails, so that means I'm heads. And there we go. So you are tails and I'm heads, right? And then now I would read this article and you would read the other one. And that's how it's decided between the 2 partners remotely for working that out. Now, both articles that are linked here are just simple Google documents with the text on it. But this looks very similar to what the original HyperDoc or assignment looks like. This is just pulled out of it. And this is a shorter text that students need to read and become an expert on. But now I have that accountability of my partner that they know I'm going to read this one and they're going to read the other one. And we're both going to jot our thinking down here on the HyperDoc. Once we both have done that, as we said on the first slide, this is a Monday/Tuesday part of the lesson. So during a Zoom call or during a synchronous teaching time, I might give those partners some time to connect and share their thinking. And then I would pull everyone back, whole group, and say, now that you've each read articles from the New York Times, let's take a look at what that means, the New York Journal. And so this is a link to images of the New York sinking of the Maine. And so students can just take a little bit of time to explore the actual images. And I love this trick because it's so simple. If you want to give them lots of opportunity to see something on one topic, Google it yourself and put that URL search back onto your HyperDoc. And then the students are just exploring that piece too. So that's a second layer on this Explore. And then the teacher here has created some zoom in direct instruction around that to teach what they're looking at through those slides that are linked there. So all of that coming together in this exploration with a partner, I've now had some time to look at 2 different articles around what happened to the USS Maine and jot down thinking. Now again, I like to look at this as an invitation as well. I saw a meme the other day on a parent support Facebook group for distance learning. And the meme had 2 pictures of a Zoom call. One was an elementary classroom of students with speech bubbles on where they're saying, hi, here's my dog, here's my cat, nice to see you, teacher. And they're talking right away in the Zoom. And the contrast was, a secondary classroom where the teacher is trying to get everyone to talk. And I've been hearing this theme everywhere that and also show their face and get interacting. So I could really see if you have time to be with a partner or something and really debrief this during a synchronous lesson, then that exploration just goes that much farther. And rather than attaching a quiz or a check for understanding, again, this is an invitation to be curious. What did happen to the USS Maine? Rather than, I'm going to be testing you on it. I want you to be curious about that too. And there's a lot of theories about that. And that's what the Explore does. And then students are now invited to share their responses on a Padlet. Now, most secondary teachers teach more than one class period of the same content. So I would keep one Padlet for all of the class periods. So if your friend is taking your class, like as a student, if you're in Mrs. Johnson's 3rd period and your friend is in Mrs. Johnson's 5th period, you might see your friend's responses. You can have them reply with their name or anonymously. But again, this is about having a conversation about the topic and building in that exploration. So once they've had some time, I'm hoping by this, after these 2 days of exploration, now they're wanting to find out more directly what is the direct instruction that you want them to know. So here was the video trick I was thinking was quite clever, because you're right. We're all sending videos home, even in Edpuzzle, they will watch it because they have to get the points. But how do we get them to watch a video because they want to learn more about a topic? And Scott, the original creator, did this really clever design on his HyperDoc. Watch one or both of the videos. It's up to you, students. And I know that when he invited them to watch it, students could, hop on in, watch the video. He could let them, but it's not like just the one. Even with students, the choice allows them, and they both cover the same direct instruction piece. You might even allow them to watch. The videos aren't that long. They could watch them during your class, and then it could turn into an open discussion on what did you find out? And that's the explain. The explain, you know your teaching point, but our kids can take these videos and probably share the teaching points back to you through the explain if they have an opportunity now to discuss. And then they go back to the Padlet again and add to their thinking. So throughout the week, you're seeing the ideas grow on that Padlet. And then the final step to this project, or through this week-long lesson plan learning objective of what happened to the USS Maine, is to invite students to choose a way to respond and show what they know. And in this application, what I really love about the remix is notice all these tools that are listed down here. And these are all optional tools that are suggested for the students to respond to this question. What role does media play in shaping public opinion? Are the elements of yellow journalism still present today? Create your own question and response. Create a political cartoon that illustrates the difference between the articles or the impact of yellow journalism as it relates to the Spanish-American War. Now, it says there's 2 more choice options here. Choose a prompt. So there's 4 prompts that students can connect to, and choose a tool. And if you look at the tools, they offer a variety of mediums. In Powtoons, students are invited to orally tell the story, but they have to customize and put together the animation. In Pictochart, students have to visually represent their response in an infographic. But this run right here is a simple go ahead and sketch it out. And so it's a video to sketch noting. And so students could get off tech and get some drafting paper out, and they have a choice to use digital or off tech. So you're teaching students, and through a lesson like this, you're teaching students not only the content, but also what kind of a learner are they? You can reflect on what are their strengths that they have as far as showing their learning. And over the course of a school year, I can imagine doing this kind of activity in a variety of ways, and then getting to that point where you invite students to try something they haven't done before. Because that student who loves to sketch and draw, they're going to stay in that comfort zone all year. But that student who loves to curate and build digitally might work in Powtoons. But trying to encourage them to develop all those different ways of showing their learning is another thing that could happen from this. So when you put it all together, sort of like the annotation, there's this remix that happened from being in the classroom to remote instruction. And as we've mentioned before, You want to remix, give credit to the original designer, HyperDoc created by Scott Padway and remixed by Sarah Landis. That's what it looks like. And then on this second page, students used Flip a Coin instead in order to go ahead and choose who's going to read which article. And then they also, I'm sorry, I don't know why it's doing this for me right now. I want to zoom out a little bit so you can see. Then also they can work with their peers and build on that exploration. They get to choose the video that they watch. And even when they go to choose it, you can teach them how to use things like accessibility tools. And that way they can have accessibility anytime they watch YouTube videos. And then finally, there's the pencil-like version of the Apply and all the other types as well. And so by the end of the week, you can still capture the learning of the students on this one teaching point to the depth of knowledge as to what do they know around that topic. So there's just a lot of ideas around that. Are there any questions right now? I know that was a lot as well.
No, no, they're not in the chat. People are just throwing in good ideas.
Good.
And sharing. Thank you for dropping links in, Jen, to share what you got going. And just, we're doing good. We have 5 minutes left, and I've just been dropping some links here for that next slide, actually.
Great.
Oh, Christina, though, I'm so sorry. She's overwhelmed in a good way. And I really apologize because those links I just dropped are in that very last one. It's sort of floating there, sorted on our website by subject. And I'll put it in again here. There we go. There's a lot in there. So
there is, and there's a lot that we put on the presentation as well. We'll direct you to where those are as well. The tips are shared here because we invite you to just sort of have fun with this. I know it does feel overwhelming, and if it's too overwhelming, then maybe that's where we start with tip number 1, which is that less is more. And so we could start with that. Find a HyperDoc that you feel comfortable with and go ahead and make a copy of that, or find one that inspires you. Don't do too many. You know, try one out with a subject area or a learning objective that you've just been really wanting students to get more engaged in. I mean, choose wisely on which ones. You can't do these for every lesson all the time. And then think about how kids need to be supported and have some fun with it as well. But Lisa, can you talk about this like shopping page that we have really?
Well, and I've been chatting it up in the chat. That's what you do in the chat it up. And apologizing because when we moved to our brand new website, hyperdocs.co, our academy, the database for Teachers Give Teachers did not like the new home. So we're just dying. But the good news is it's going to make us remodel the new home, and I cannot wait. It is going to be way better than, I keep thinking of like the Amazon experience of shopping, only it doesn't cost. Like I'm giving you all Prime, meaning free. In the meantime, while you're being patient with us, I drop these links in there, but you can also from our slides access, there's a whole bunch of primary HyperDocs on that yellow one, secondary HyperDocs on the gray one, and then we've got finding HyperDocs and loads of samples you can get started. We also have them though, teachers are sharing them constantly or in our Facebook group, not or. And so I think that might be coming up next on our, a little bit learn more. We've got a lot more to be sharing. I really love to be I like to think that I'm the HyperDoc whisperer because I always wanted to be the book whisperer and someone else wrote that book. So HyperDoc whisperer I'm settling for. So in the Facebook group, if you're looking for something, you could either search that group or you could ask, and a lot of people will answer and support you. So
yeah. And I mean, another thing about the community that surrounds HyperDocs is if there isn't a HyperDoc for that yet, there will be someone who will want to collaborate with you. And that's where a lot of these have come from. And we're always willing to do that, but you might even pose a question in the Facebook group and find some new friends who want to design with you as well, which is really exciting to see that collaboration happening globally in that way. But really, I also want to let you know that if you want to learn more, because there is a lot to this, the HyperDoc Handbook is a great foundation to the idea, the pedagogy, the lesson design, and the template. And it's really a handbook in the sense that teachers, our hope was that they could keep it on their desk and go back to it. It's not a book that you have to read from start to finish. You would have it like when you need a little nudge or a little inspiration or an idea for a different section of your HyperDoc, you can go to the handbook and get some ideas. And then after a few years after the book was published, people were asking us if we were going to write another book. And instead, we designed this academy because it allowed us to teach about that delivery piece more. The book is around the design, but the academy has design, delivery, text sets, and anything really relevant to the craft and creativity of instructional lesson design. So that's what is available on the academy. And there's a lot of courses that you could check out for free, or there's a subscription base as well. And then the third way to continue to communicate around this is through the social media websites. And we've already touched on that, but I really believe that they are like a really inclusive professional learning network. I've seen teachers post a question, I'm looking for a HyperDoc on fill in the blank. And then I'll look an hour later and there's 50 comments already with different iterations of ideas and lessons and conversations happening. So it's the power of that social media in a really positive way, which is really exciting to see happen. So as we bring a little closure, because I know there's other sessions coming up, I'm just curious to know if you had any aha moments during our presentation today. Now I'm realizing this makes me want to try, this makes me think, or give us some new ideas. So if you wouldn't mind just reflecting a little bit in the chat, we'd love to hear your thinking. I'm going to stop screen sharing here so we could just check it out with our community here.
We went right up to that last minute too.
We really are. I mean, there's one more slide that you can check out on your own, and it's just our resources to connect. So please feel free to do that as well. But if you have any ahas or questions, please put them in the chat. I realize that less is more. Yeah, thank you, Andrea. That is
that's a good one. That's kind of my motto for a long time.
It's so easy to keep linking more and more and more. And sometimes I'll admit, I'll show Lisa some of my ideas and she'll say, you might need to take one or two of those off. There's just too much. It's just because your brain gets so creative and excited. But you gotta.
I agree. Do not HyperDoc your whole entire course. Yes, that's super important. Kids will hate HyperDocs.
Yeah.
Don't do that to them. Like I like Jen's idea, the off tech app.
Yeah.
That's so Jen.
Hey ladies, how's it going?
We are done.
All right.
Look at your
I have to get the room ready for the next